Hello and welcome along to the Red Bull Ring. It's practice time here in Austria and the hills are about to become alive with the sound of Formula One engines.
Okay, we need a few solid laps here to help us calculate a good race strategy. Okay, test complete, and that was a really good job indeed. We got a lot of valuable information out of that. Well done. Okay, we can take you this lap.
And that's it, practice. High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix. Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Ace lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fernando Alonso, Norris, Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Oscar Piastri, Stroll, Gasly, Hamilton, Albon, Ocon, Bottas, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, and Logan Sargent. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson. Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show in the sprint format today, there's definitely a change to what we're usually seeing on the track. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Okay, we're monitoring somewhere on the internal combustion engine. Be aware that we're going to start to see a loss of power. Okay, DRS will be enabled this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Good job, that was the fastest lap of the race so far. Gap to your teammate behind, 9.5 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. They're in 15th. Your last lap time, 1:12.5. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 11.5 seconds. You're in first position, front of the pack. Norris behind. They're on fresh mediums. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. 2 laps left. Next time by will be your final lap. Okay, mate, final lap. Keep your concentration and let's bring it home.
Nice one. Very lovely drive. On to the next one.
Yes, mate, I cannot complain about that one. That was an excellent drive. Well done.
So with the sprint concluded, join us next time for qualifying and of course the main event, this weekend's Formula One Grand Prix. We'll see you next time. High up in the mountains, here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix. Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. The Spielberg circuit then is situated 700 metres above sea level, with just 10 corners making up one of the shortest laps of the season. One time around here is a distance of around 2.6 miles, with the best overtaking chances into turn 1 or the tight uphill of turn 3. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Ace lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Norris, Russell, Oscar Piastri. Leclerc, Perez. Hamilton, Sainz. Stroll, Ocon. Albon, Gasly. Tsunoda, Ricciardo. Bottas, Hulkenberg. Sargent, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. And alongside me here today in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say they've got the better of them more often than not.
Yeah, they have. And it's, rule number one, beat your teammate. They're the one that share the same equipment as you. And yes, the cars can vary and set up from race to race and depending on who has which style. But essentially, they're your barometer, the yardstick. If you can beat them, that's the first job you have to do. And it looks like it's going their way, doesn't it? And they need to carry on this momentum, this energy through the rest of the season.
Okay, we're monitoring some wear on the internal combustion engine. Be aware that we're going to start to see a loss of power. Now use DRS. DRS now available. We might see some rain. ETA about 15 minutes. we're approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums. Okay, we're looking at some gearbox wear, so try to keep the number of shifts to a minimum, please. Okay, be aware, the grip levels are going to start falling away soon. Okay, we're boxing this lap. Give us the best in lap you can. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 12.1 seconds. Okay, mate, we've got some clear track around us now, so let's use it and make this next lap a quick one. Let's go. Remember, box this lap. Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach and make sure you don't speed. Okay, don't worry about that target for now. Let's just focus on this pit stop. Right, let's go, come on. Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that. Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross onto the track. Watch out for understeer in the wake of the car ahead. Try to get past as quickly as you can. Push, push. Okay, mate, and that's Valtteri ahead of you. Right, let's go. Let's try and get past them and put them on the back foot. Push, push. Great stuff. It looked like you made easy work of that target. Let's try and keep that going right through to the end of the race. And gap to the car in front, 4.1 seconds. At least another 10 minutes until this rain evens out. Stay alert out there. Okay, you sat in P2. That's Gasly ahead. They're on old mediums. Norris is behind you. They're on fresh mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 9 laps to go. Right, we've looked at the gearbox issue, but I'm afraid there's nothing we can do. Try and drive around it, we'll just have to hope for the best. Remember, you've got a lot of torque in these power units, so you should be able to stay in high gears for a lot of the lap. We're still happy that we're on the right tyres at the moment. Okay, you're catching the car ahead, but remember, we need to get to the end of the race on these tyres. Tyre situation's an interesting one, but I think the right call is to stick with what we've got for now. Gap to your teammate behind, 32.1 seconds. That was a bit borderline there. We're lucky to have gotten away with it. Okay, I think it might just be about time to come and change these tyres. Okay, the stewards have now disabled DRS. DRS is now disabled. Okay, mate, your lap times are all over the place right now. We've got to have consistency. Come on, we can do better than this. Teams seem to be putting intermediates on now. Come on, let's go and switch over if you need to. We've only got a few laps left. We could risk staying out on the dry tyres unless it becomes undrivable. The rain's getting worse. Be very careful. quite get what we needed out of that, I'm afraid, but don't worry about it. There's a long way to go. Chin up, and let's focus till the end. Okay, mate, this is the final lap of the race. Final lap.
Nice one. Very lovely drive. On to the next one.
Ah, fantastic drive. That's just fantastic. Amazing. You deserved that race win. Well done, mate.
A fantastic team effort then to secure victory here in the Styrian Alps.
And of course, that's now 4 race wins in a row. They've got the momentum now, and it's starting to turn into a bit of a dominance.
Sauber in the #1 spot on the podium today. What a thrilling race, and what an excellent result for this team, who've never stopped fighting for that top step. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, and I can't wait to see what's next.